And now when you've seen the whole EFT Full Recipe, let's dive deeper and learn how the individual steps are done and why. You already know that EFT works on a wide range of emotions and also physical sensations. So choose a specific emotion that you will be tapping on. Or it could be a physical sensation, or it could be a past stressful event. The more specific you are, the better EFT works. So ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And the next question would be, where in the body am I feeling it? That will make it even more specific. And some people are really good at tuning into their bodies. They know, oh, this is in my stomach or it's sitting on my chest. And if you are one of the people, good for you. If not, don't let that stop you from doing EFT. It will still work. So for the purpose of this video, I will choose a common stressful event, being late off work. And that's associated often with a whole range of stressful emotions, a shock, sadness, fear of future, maybe anger. Let's pick one of them, and maybe the shock, that's the first one. I ask yourself, where in the body am I feeling it? And let's say it's in my chest. The next step before you start the actual tapping is to give your emotion an intensity rating. On a scale 0 to 10, how intense is this emotion for me right now? 0 means it's not there, no problem. 10 is as intense as you can imagine. So let's assume this event, this shock, being laid off work, is intensity 8. There's been more intense events, but it's pretty high up there. You want to ask yourself for this number periodically throughout the tapping process, after a round or after a couple of rounds of tapping, so that you know that you are moving. If you're not, there are things you can do, but you want to ask yourself what the intensity is once in a while during the tapping. And also, this intensity rating is totally subjective to you. It's just for you to know. And that's why it's called subjective units of distress, SUD. Now to the actual tapping. It consists of 4 simple steps. The first step is the setup. The setup looks like a system of affirmations combined with finger tapping. I'll show you in a little bit how to do it. I would like to explain the purpose of it. You don't always have to do the setup, but if the tapping that follows won't do the job, you really need to get that setup done. I've seen a number that may be in 40% of the cases, EFT, the tapping, will not do its work unless the setup is done. What the setup does is that it helps us overcome a psychological reversal. Psychological reversal is a thing that may look energetically like a reversed polarity in our meridian system. On a psychological plane, it can show up as a subconscious desire to hold on to the problem. It may stop us from healing, or it can stop us from letting go of resentment. Even though we consciously want to get better, we want to forgive, there is a subconscious desire to hold on to the problem. And this setup statement and the setup procedure is designed precisely to overcome this psychological reversal. How it is done? It consists of repeating a specific phrase 3 times while you are tapping on your karate chop point. Your karate chop point is on the side of your hand, on that fleshy part. If you're right-handed, use your right hand, and you can use 3 or 4 fingers to tap on that fleshy part. And as you are tapping there, repeat 3 times a phrase that goes like this. Even though I have, and you say the problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. So applying it to the previous situation, we can say, even though I have this shock, I deeply and completely accept and love myself. And you say that 3 times. 3 times is like designed for the average person to get over that psychological reversal. You can try to say it once. You can experiment with not saying it at all and see how the tapping turns out, but it is recommended that you put this setup statement every time you start working on a new emotion or a new topic. And this setup statement is just this simple to begin with. Experienced practitioners vary it, but don't worry about the wording too much. This will work. So you can say, even though I have this shock, I deeply and completely accept myself. There are clients who may have a problem saying this phrase, I deeply and completely accept myself. And that's okay. Even if you don't believe it, just say it. And that's okay. If you cannot even say it, then choose a different one. Even though I have this problem, I'm still a good person. That will work. I've heard of a setup statement, even though I have this problem, my goldfish still loves me. Again, don't let that stop you from the next, from doing EFT. Step number 2 is the sequence, and that's the actual tapping on the meridian points of the face, of the torso, and of the hands. I use EFT Full Recipe with my clients, and that covers all of the 14 major meridians in the body. That's my preferred version. However, there are many versions, and some of them use only the points on the face and a couple of the torso points, and that's okay. Whichever version works for you is the right one for you, and you should stick with that one. Whenever you're tapping, you want to be tuned into the problem. That's when the problem gets addressed. So that's why I mentioned already, there is this reminder phrase. It's just a word or a couple of words to keep yourself tuned into the problem as you're tapping. So for example, you will be saying this stress as you're tapping all around the points. This stress. You want to stay on each point between 5 and 10 taps, but no need to count. And some people tend to tap very lightly, and some people tap harder, and either way is okay, whatever works for you. So where are the points located? The first one is on the eyebrows, right below the beginning of the eyebrow. That's the eyebrow point. And feel free to tap on one side or on both sides. Next point is next to the eye. It's on that bony ridge pretty close to the eye. This shock. Reminder statement. Next point is below the eye. It's below the pupil on that bony socket. Next point is under the nose. There's just one in the middle. Next point on the chin. It's right there in the dimple. Then we go to the torso points. The first one is collarbone point. If you put your hand where man tie the thigh, slide about 1 inch down and 1 inch to either side, and you will be right there at the right spot. You can tap through the clothing and either on one side or both sides. This shock. Next point you want to tap is on the side of your body. If you put your forearm horizontally across your chest, your fingers will hit the point. You can tap with 3 or 4 of your fingers right now. The point is about 4 inches from your armpit, so it's not, you're not tapping in the armpit, but on the side of your body. It usually is the same place where women's bra strap runs. The next point on the torso is the below the nipple point, and it's in line with nipple, right below the nipple, where the breast meets the rib cage. So women might need to lift up the breast slightly. It's easy to tap for men. This is an optional point. It is on liver path. It's up to you whether you tap it or not. Next come the finger points, and they are on the side of your thumb where the nail bed starts. I'll show it this way. It's right here. The second point on the fingers is on the index finger, again at the base of the nail on the thumb side. Next finger is on the middle finger, again at the base of the nail bed. Skip the ring finger, and the next point is on your little finger at the base of the nail bed, on the side turned towards the thumb. And the last point in the sequence is the karate chop point. That's where we did the setup statement. So we tap that point again with 3 or 4 of your fingers. And that was the sequence. Pretty easy. After the sequence, you may want to include 9 gamut procedure. It doesn't need to be always there, but it may be helpful in many situations. So give it a try. If you like it, include it. If not, if EFT works without it for you, just feel free to skip it. 9 gamut procedure consists of 9 steps that you do while you are continuously tapping on your gamut point. Your gamut point is on your hand in this groove between bones that go from into your pinky and into your ring finger. So right there in that groove, you want to be tapping. And as you are tapping, you're gonna perform a series of 9 steps. Close your eyes, open your eyes. Look hard down right, hard down left. Roll your eyes one direction and try not to skip any point. Roll your eyes the opposite direction. Hum piece of a song. It doesn't matter what melody it is. I'll use just a couple seconds like that. Now count to 5 quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hum again. And that's the 9 gamut procedure. After that, you're gonna go straight to the next sequence. The 9 gamut procedure, as I said, fine-tunes your brain. There is a connection between eye movement and brain's processing. So every one of those 9 steps does something to our brain. I won't go into more details than that, but just like I said, feel free to experiment with it. And after 9 gamut procedure, repeat the sequence again, the same way, without the setup statement, just repeat the sequence. Tap on your eyebrow points, this shock. Next to the eye, this shock. Below the eye, this shock. Under the nose, this shock. Under the mouth, on the chin, this shock. Collarbone points, this shock. On the side of your body, this shock. Below the nipple, this shock. Thumb point, this shock. Index finger, this shock. Middle finger, this shock. Little finger, this shock. Karate chop point, this shock. And that is the EFT full recipe. What happens next is that you ask yourself again for the intensity rating. What is it right now after performing a couple of rounds of tapping? Chances are that the intensity already dropped, but if not, do a couple more rounds and then assess again. If it drops, good. Just repeat the setup and repeat the sequence. You may want to choose to say a modified setup, which sounds like this. Even though I still have some of this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still have some of this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. And one more time. And then you start on the sequence, and you may want to modify the reminder statement as well and say this remaining problem. So you would say this remaining shock, this remaining shock, this remaining shock. It may be somewhat beneficial to acknowledge that some movement already happened and you're working with the remaining shock. But it is optional. If you just use the simplest reminder phrase and setup statement that I explained first, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes it happens that you ask yourself after a couple of rounds of tapping, what's my intensity right now? And it's worse. The intensity got up instead of down. Rest assured that that's just because you are tuning into the problem right now and you are fully feeling it in your body. And that's actually the first step before you can address it. So just repeat your setup statement and repeat the sequence, and the intensity will start dropping down. If not, we will have to do some troubleshooting, and that's beyond the scope of this first video. But I would like to say the most common reasons why intensity may not be dropping is that either you are not being very specific, not specific enough on that emotion or where in your body it is, or the setup statement has not been done well or not enough, not with enough emphasis. So try again and say it out loud and say the setup statement with lots of emphasis and put a lot of energy in it. And chances are EFT will work for you after this. So basically, you repeat this EFT full recipe until your intensity on that emotion drops down to 0 or close to 0. And then you can go on to the next emotion and the next emotion. You want to cover all the aspects of that specific event. And then you're done. Thank you for staying with me this whole time. I congratulate you on soaking in all this information. I know it is a lot, but go ahead, experiment with it. Use my blue card as a reminder, and you can also download an EFT mini manual for free from EFTuniverse.com. Read through it and try it again. If you don't have success, please remember what I said at the beginning of this video, that what you just learned are the first stitches. You are not expected to sew yourself a dress or a suit yet. Good luck on your tapping.